I'm Mark Adler, and this is Citizens for a Better Shrewsbury. It's the January 2009 show. Happy New Year. And our guest is Senator, or right now it's Senator-elect, Mike Moore. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me here today, and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. Now, when do you actually officially become Senator Mike Moore?
I officially become Senator this Wednesday, January 7th.
And how does that work?
Well, you know, we're still getting notified how that works. The swearing-in session starts at 11 o'clock. I have my first official caucus at 10 o'clock, and I'm told it's a 2-hour process, and at some point they'll have all the senators get up and take the oath of office. They actually swear everyone in, state reps, state representatives, and senators the same day. Even senators who have been in office for 18 years, every year there's a swearing-in process. So.
I suppose if you're re-elected, you're starting a new term, and you'd have to get sworn in again
Yes.
for another 2-year term.
Another 2-year term, yes.
Well,
That's actually quite, you know, when you mention a 2-year term, during this campaign, since I've won the campaign, actually the election, I've actually had quite a few people even surprised that it's a 2-year term.
Really?
Yeah, most
Oh, they think it's 6, like a U.S. senator.
Or 4. Or 4 years, and it's
Everyone's 4 years. You should be
Yes.
4 years, right?
well, it's not bad after doing a 9-month campaign, but it would be a nice thought.
Well, you went from being a selectman, you what, 3-year term there?
3-year term, yes.
Wow.
So you have a 3-year term to a 2-year term, but I'll tell you, it was very interesting. I enjoyed it. It was nice getting out throughout the whole district. But I'm looking forward to the challenges that's going to hopefully take place Wednesday.
Now you were working at the Worcester County House of Correction.
Yes.
Commonly called the local jail.
Yes.
For Guy Glodis, your predecessor's predecessor.
That's
in
correct.
fact, but you're not there anymore now, right?
No, as of November 28th, I resigned from the position. I left the employment at the sheriff's office.
Big farewell party, cake?
Not really.
With
I mean, just
iron bars in it or nothing? Okay. They don't do that?
No. Just got together a few of the people that I worked with and employees of mine, and we had a small little dinner, and that's about it. No, nothing big. So, but it was a 4 years that I had been there, and I had a very good group of people I worked with, and it was a little emotional. Yeah.
Will you still be talking with Guy Glodis and seeing him in an advisory capacity, you know, as he spent so much time in this job representing, you know, in some ways the same district?
Well, even before I worked for Sheriff Glodis, the sheriff and I spoke. It goes beyond. I know in the campaign that became my opponent made an issue of it, but the sheriff and I are friends. We were friends before I got elected, and before he appointed me there. I had known him since he had run for state rep, and we're going to be friends now that I'm in this capacity. If I need advice, I may call the sheriff. I may call Senator Augustus,
sure.
Congressman McGovern, anyone who I think, even Lieutenant Governor Murray, anyone I think that can instill a little of their experience and help me make the appropriate decisions. I'm more than willing to speak to anyone. Representative Polito, she's got in her 3rd or 4th term now. I'll gladly speak to anyone that that I can work with.
So you've got what, 6 different state reps just in the 2nd Worcester Senate District, right?
Yes, 5 full state reps, and there's 1 state representative. Representative Pedoni has 1 precinct.
He's in Worcester, right?
5-3.
Sure.
That will be in my senatorial district.
So now you've got to build a new relationship with these state reps, different from the capacity you had as a selectman for 7 years. Yes. Now you're going to be working with them. You know, have you begun to build those alliances, or is this something just carrying over from previous experience?
Well, actually, luckily on my behalf, Representative Frost. Again, you're right from the selectman point of view, but Representative Frost, Representative Peterson, Representative Beninda. I had actually, when I was with the Environmental Police, when I was president of their union, had to deal with a lot of legislative issues. So there were issues that I dealt with them in the legislature. So yes, I'm developing a new relationship as far as being a senator now, but I do have a good working relationship with those representatives now. And I was on the show just last week or 2 weeks ago with Representative Polito.
Right.
We're going to have a great working relationship, and I'm fairly confident we'll be very successful.
Let's talk money.
Yes.
Aids to cities and towns, as it's commonly called, or as we call it down at this level, state aid.
Yes.
Depends on who's getting it and who's receiving it.
Yep.
It's the biggest thing on the minds of towns, especially in the winter time, because it's usually, I think, February 1st that preliminary numbers come down from the governor's office, and then it has to, of course, get ratified by the legislature. Here in Shrewsbury, we have a situation that some people would say, and I certainly agree, that there is an addiction our budget has to state aid, in which we are so dependent on it now that when it fluctuates, and it does fluctuate from year to year, that it has a grave effect on our town's budget. There are some towns that have a very small part of their budget that's state aid, whereas here we have almost 50% of our budget is state aid dependent.
Okay.
Chapter 70 and other reimbursements, and then charges against it. And I don't want to get into all the nitty-gritty of how the numbers are calculated, because it can be, it's boring for the listeners, and I don't want to put them to sleep any more than I probably already am. But what can you, as our state senator, do for us, for the other towns in your Senate district and in the other towns and cities in the Commonwealth, to improve our situation for state aid?
Well, just advocate on behalf of the towns to increase state aid or to make sure it doesn't get cut. Well, one aspect of state aid that you have to look at is that the lottery funds, a lot of the revenues from the lottery fund state aid. And when there's been, as we've seen, there's been a reduction in the surplus monies or revenues being brought in by the lottery, so we've seen some reduction. This past fiscal year, they actually supplemented some of the funding with the rainy day account. We all saw the governor propose and actually implemented the $1.4 billion cut already.
That was the first cut.
That's the first cut. Now, it's my understanding from what we were told, we actually had an orientation for all incoming new senators and representatives out in Amherst at the beginning of the month.
Right.
And they had one small segment on the budget. During that segment, they did tell us that out of the $1.4 billion, $300 million of those cuts were based on a 30% reduction in capital gains.
Wow, just the capital gains.
Yes. Well, $300 million. Right.
Right. But that amount in itself is just capital gains.
Just capital gains. Now, they were waiting for the December numbers to come in, but if there was anything that exceeded 30%, we'd have to see further reductions or cuts. And well, I guess they just came out with, I think we all saw in the paper, that they're looking at another $1 billion.
Another billion, that's right.
So I know the governor's going to be looking for some 9C authority to make additional cuts. So that's going to be something I think that we're going to have to initially deal with right off the bat.
Is that something that you would support, giving the governor a broader 9C authority? Right now I know he has some sort of limited authority to make 9C cuts.
Right now the governor can only issue 9C cuts for agencies or the executive office underneath his jurisdiction.
Okay.
The broader 9C cuts to agencies outside his authority or jurisdiction is going to be granted by the legislature.
And that would include state aid to towns?
Well, that could possibly, yes, that would include state aid to towns.
But that's not under his limited authority right now? No,
it's not.
Okay.
My concern with granting the broader authority is I want to have some idea of what he's proposing. If he could issue a plan to the legislature so that we can see what he's actually proposing. Because there may be programs or priorities, or like saying the local aid, that I'm going to fight to protect in my district.
Well, sure.
So but it's kind of a balance you have to look at, because the governor is responsible for making sure the state has a balanced budget.
We run out of money. Y'all can yell at each other all you want, but you run out of money.
That's right, and it's granted by the Constitution that he has to have a balanced budget.
Sure.
So it's going to need the governor's office and the legislature working together to make sure that we are not hamstringing the local governments. As I said during the campaign, municipal government, local government is the backbone of the state government. If they're not successful, state government's not going to be successful.
Could some sort of sunset provision be applied to any expansion of the 9C cuts to say, okay, this is a one-year deal, we're not expanding your authority forever or even for the rest of your administration?
No, this would just be for...
This would be a one-time?
A one-time for the fiscal year.
Okay. We have some specific local concerns to Shrewsbury, not even say the district or the town or the state, but just right here in Shrewsbury. One of them is our commercial development. We have a very high percentage of our tax base is residential taxes. I think it's in the high 80s, 88 or so.
Okay. Well, I was actually in a meeting with another town that had a breakdown of
Oh, good.
in commercial rates, and I thought they had Shrewsbury anywhere between 90 and 91%.
I believe it.
Residential.
Oh, I would believe that.
So which is very deceptive to other communities, because during the campaign, and I'll even admit it myself, if you look at Route 9 and that little corridor you have,
Sure.
Shrewsbury, the perception outside of the town is that Shrewsbury has a big commercial base. And as we're stating right now, it really doesn't.
Well, our residential base is 10 times larger.
Yeah.
And if they want to, they can say, hey, look at the Staples, the Stop and Shop, and the Shaws, but then go down 140 or go down Route 20 or see some of the residential neighborhoods, the really dense residential neighborhoods. But we have. What would you say, 90, 91, 92%
91%
residential. And so the problem is, the residential taxes have a negative drain on the community. That is, you spend $1.41, you spend $1 in residential taxes, you get about $1.41 back. That's an old number, but that's the idea, whereas commercial is the opposite.
Right.
You spend a lot in taxes, and the business spends a lot of taxes and not as much as needed because various reasons. Right. So every town has a need.
Schools, you're not funding.
Yeah, that's right. There's no schools. There's no kids living in the Stop and Shop.
Right.
And because fire codes are much stricter, they don't have as many concerns about fire calls going to these stores. I mean, there's all of these different reasons that that commercial development is good for a town. But because our ratio is so off kilter here in Shrewsbury, we're desperate to find commercial development. And we have commercial zones, they're just empty. And you can see the tumbleweeds going across them. What can we, or for that matter, other towns do, but specifically Shrewsbury, what can we do to improve commercial development, to get more businesses here? You were in Millbury when Blackstone's really taken off, and we go down there and we see what a great project that is, and that must be wonderful for the town of Millbury.
Oh, it's people in town appreciate the revenues that are brought in from the mall. It's almost $1 million a year.
$1 million a year?
Almost $1 million a year that's brought in from commercial revenues, that if we didn't have that over the last 5 or 6 years, we probably would have been in override situations like the town of Shrewsbury.
How big is the Millbury budget?
We are roughly $38 million.
And $1 million of that right there is just is real estate taxes and
based
personal.
Right, from the revenues from the mall.
Wow.
Now, listen, I'd love to take credit, or the board would love to take
Oh, go
credit.
ahead. No one's watching the show anyway.
But if you look at, if it wasn't for the Mass Pike 146 exchange being brought in, that infrastructure, the money being spent on the infrastructure of that area, is really what brought the mall to Millbury.
Really?
Yes, because if you look at it, that opened up the Blackstone Valley. Millbury, we'd always consider ourselves the gateway to the Blackstone Valley. Well, once that...
But nobody saw you.
And no one had the access. That gave us the access to people moving east that actually worked east in this eastern part of the state and wanted to live out in central Mass. Well, the people going from Dudley, Douglas, that area through Millbury, opened up people from Worcester coming into Millbury, going south. So if you invest in your infrastructure, that will help bring economic development to your community. Now, I know it's the Allen Farm property.
Right.
It might take some, if we can get some state aid, or maybe some state federal stimulus money.
Who can I talk to get state aid for the Allen property?
Oh, you can go to your representative, and you can go to myself.
Hey.
And well, actually, everyone's familiar, knows President Obama, or President-elect Obama will be January 20th.
President Obama, that's fine.
And he's been proposing a stimulus package.
Right.
Now, unlike the other stimulus package that's been proposed that went to the private sector, they're now looking at a stimulus package that's going to be diverted to the states. Now, Governor Patrick actually has put out a 180-day plan, and myself and Representative Polito actually met with the town manager in Shrewsbury, Congressman McGovern, the representatives of wastewater treatment plant, and that the retrofitting for the treatment plant is going to be over $60 million.
It's a huge project.
Town of Shrewsbury is responsible for $54 million of it, 58% of it.
A large chunk, yeah.
So we've submitted a proposal to the Lieutenant Governor's office to see if we can get that as part of the stimulus package.
Well, that would be nice. It's shovel ready. It's ready to go, as they say.
And that's one of the criteria. Whatever projects are submitted have to be able to be broken ground within 6 months.
Well, this is it. This is certainly there, and that would be a great project. So.
Oh, I tell you, and again, this is where going beyond Democrat, Republican, or being able to work with your colleagues, Congressman McGovern, Representative Polito, myself. different parties, all working for the same goal. And actually, I've been on the phone early this morning. I've spoken to every other town manager, all the city council, the city manager in Worcester, and I'm hopefully going to, by tomorrow, have a list of projects that they're going to we can actually submit to the governor's office to add to get included in the stimulus package. So I'm really, I've been trying to, since I left the sheriff's office November 28th, make this that I'm hitting the ground running. That January 7th, when I'm sworn in, there's no lag time. That we can move forward, and I'm hoping that if I can submit $60, $70 million worth of projects for this district and access that federal stimulus, I think that says a lot for myself and the staff I'm going to be bringing in.
Well, that would be great. I know the district certainly would be a great beneficiary of that federal stimulus money.
Yes, it would.
And like I said, this project is shovel ready, as it's being called. You know, it's ready to go. The wastewater project. We have another project, the Route 9 bridge over Lake Quinsigamond. Needs some work. You know, are you the guy we can go to say, hey, we need this? You know,
Yes.
we need some
Call me
state
on that.
work on this.
Matter of fact, we actually have. I just have to review it. We just received the other day a list of projects that's on Mass Highway projects list that is going to be funded through the Transportation Bond Bill.
Yeah.
So we actually have to look at that. I have several bridges that are part of that program. I know there's one in Grafton. Actually, maybe two in Grafton. I actually have to look for the Route 9 bridge.
There's one in Shrewsbury.
That's it?
Well, that's the one that matters. Grafton's nice. One in Shrewsbury. So we've all had this ice storm. I was actually out of power for 48 hours in my house. Not bad. Could be a lot worse. A lot of people had a lot worse. But the ice storm caused a lot of damage,
Yes.
and there's all this talk about the cleanup funds. A large bulk of it federal, some state. Do you have any more information about how that works and what people in this town can hope our town coffers will be reimbursed?
Well, I do know that the governor did submit a request to the federal government. We're declaring 5 counties in the state emergency zones or disaster zones. So he will be seeking federal funds to cover those costs. And before I forget, just to show my emphasis on Shrewsbury, I'm sure they'll be seeing quite a bit of me and my staff. I have hired 2 people as part of my staff that are from Shrewsbury.
Who's that? Tell us all.
Jason Palich,
Okay.
who's a co-op student at Northeastern.
Sure.
And an individual named Tom O'Neill.
Okay.
So they're going to be part of my full-time staff. So
Are they going to be here in the district, or are they going to be in Boston?
in Boston, wherever I need them.
Oh, they'll be moving.
Primarily in Boston, but if I need them in the district, they will be in the district also.
Have you set up a local office yet?
We're looking. I get a small stipend each month for if I want to set up a permanent local office. Right now, it's trying to find the location that fits the stipend. I actually this morning met with someone who may have a location for me in Shrewsbury that we might be able to set up an office.
Well, that'd be great. We need. Oh wait, that wouldn't be taxable land. Ah, never mind. You've been assigned to committees yet?
No. My understanding of the process, what we've been told, is the Senate President, she will not assign the committees until after the House Speaker DeMacy establishes his committees.
Because they're all joint committees, right?
Not all, majority, but there are. So she will not
Okay.
assign any chairmanships until after he assigns his. So.
Was this a waiting game? Or are they just trying to see who's going to blink first?
You might not also want, you might want a freshman senator with a freshman representative, or you might. So
Sure.
So you want to look at it, and actually he had also, as my understanding, he had also said he may want to reorganize some of his committees. So if that's the case, if he organizes, say, separates municipal and county committee to some other jurisdiction, well then she's going to have to match her committee to that committee.
Well, there's right now all this debate about whether or not the speaker would even be reelected speaker, and maybe what we're waiting for is the dust to settle on that argument.
Well, wasn't it on the news today that he had the votes?
Yeah.
Okay.
He has the votes. Let's wait to see if the votes are cast. You know, everyone has the votes.
Yes.
And I don't doubt that. But maybe maybe that's part of the calculus for deciding how those committee assignments are going to be made. And once the vote comes in for speaker, then the committee, it's all speculation, but that may be the dust we're waiting to see settle. And then when that hits the ground, then Senator Murray, the majority leader, can start
make her assignments. Yes.
Right. So how's your family taking this whole change of position?
Very good. I think we all thought it would after the general election, and once I left the sheriff's office, this first month and a half would be a little slower pace. I'd have a slower transition into office, but the current senator, he's actually now left.
Sure.
Prior to that, he was transitioning out. Just trying to meet with the various boards, selectmen, town managers, different organizations. It's actually been a very busy month, just as busy as the campaign. So other than that aspect, they're doing very well. I didn't realize it, but for the swearing in, my wife's got her family's flying in from New York. They're coming in from New Jersey.
Oh.
So it's
very exciting.
Yes, it is.
But you're now going to be, say, more out of town. They won't be seeing nearly as much of you, I suppose.
To a certain degree.
Really?
The position, I'm going to be in Boston 2 to 3 days a week.
Sure.
Some weeks I may be there every day, and some weeks I may be in the district, coming out meeting with the people I represent. I still have to meet with the selectmen. I still have to meet with the town managers, different constituency groups. This morning I was with the Rotary Club.
Were you?
Shrewsbury.
Shrewsbury, okay.
So, I met with them, talking priorities and what's been going on, and asking them for their advice.
Sure.
If there's any way I can help small businesses in the town of Shrewsbury or the area. So without that input, I can't get that input if I'm in Boston every day. You've got to make yourself accessible to the people you represent.
Another issue that concerns a lot of people statewide is funding for special education, specifically transportation out of the school district. Some students need residential treatment, some just need to be taken to a different place for their educational needs because one district or another can't handle that child's special needs. Those transportation costs are an exorbitant part of the education and the town budget. The millions of dollars. I know that there is a push to get some of that reimbursed, either through a circuit breaker or a portion of it reimbursed, or would be wonderful to see it all paid statewide. What do you see for the future of special education funding, or just this one little part of it, the transportation budget?
Well, I would love to say we're going to fund it fully for every city or town. In all honesty, I can't guarantee what's going to happen until I see what's going to be proposed in January. Again, we've got $1 billion deficit. Mm-hmm. The governor has not submitted a plan to anyone, so it would be very irresponsible of me to say this is where we're going with this program or that program, but we don't know what he's going to propose. I don't want to see any cuts to what we currently have in place for education. Special ed, if we can increase the transportation costs of finding another vehicle to fund that cost. Initially, when the program was designed, I believe there was full funding for the transportation costs. So I would love to see us try to get back to that if we can. But the problem we're facing right now is the challenge we're facing is the deficit that we have coming up in January, and seeing what he's proposing for those cuts.
I'll have one more question about your legislative goals, but I just want to introduce our audience. If you're just joining us, our goal is Mike Moore. Our Senator Mike Moore is here as our guest. I'm Mark Adler. This is Citizens for Better Shrewsbury. Mike Moore is from Millbury. He went to Western New England College for his bachelor's and master's degrees. He was assistant deputy superintendent. Is that right? Assistant deputy superintendent at the Worcester County Sheriff's Office. And recently he served 7 years on the Millbury Board of Selectmen. And now he's, actually on Wednesday, the 7th of January, he will be our new state senator. Congratulations on winning your election.
Thank you.
Now, just before we finish, I just want to ask you about your specific legislative goals, priorities, something that you really see as very important to you, at least in this 2 years of your first term.
Well, initially when the campaign started 9-10 months ago, it was trying to get the state to fulfill its mandates, with funding to back up what the mandates were. Over this 9 to 10 month period, we've now seen the economy falter, going down, and then actually midway during the campaign, we really started talking about economic development, creating jobs. I'm hoping with the federal stimulus that's being proposed, if that can be proposed, that if we can actually access the money for this district, I would love to see a substantial amount, come back to the district, help create some jobs, help the towns build their infrastructure so that we're setting ourselves up for the future. The only other initiative that I know we're going to be addressing deals with the referendum on question 2, which was the marijuana question.
Yeah.
I opposed that during the primary and general election.
Sure.
Actually, it was based on a lot of the issues that they're dealing with now. There's a lot of questions or ambiguity on as far as the impact of the law, as far as now the possession of marijuana. One fallacy that was going on during the campaign was that it was every time one marijuana cigarette. Well, 1 ounce is
1 ounce.
60 marijuana cigarettes.
Is that right?
The potency's higher. The marijuana is treated with other narcotics. How do you test for that? Possession on school property. You've got mandatory sentences if you're caught distributing over certain levels of narcotics or drugs. So there's a lot of questions that have to be resolved.
Okay, well that's great. We're just about out of time. Just like that, the half hour just zips
Right
away.
by.
We're going to see you again though soon, I hope.
Yes, you will. You've
Mike-
seen quite a bit of me, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. And I look forward to working with yourself and Representative Polito, Town Manager, and the people of Shrewsbury.
Thank you very much. Again, our guest has been Mike Moore, our new state senator from the 2nd Worcester District. My name is Mark Adler, and this is Citizens for Better Shrewsbury. Tune in next month. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.